better place to live and work. Amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
of the
United States of America,
States of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Chow.
Here.
Counsel Conway.
Here.
Counsel Drinkwater.
Here.
Counsel Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Mercier.
Here.
Counsel Noon.
Here.
That's 9 present.
Under mayor's business, we have communication, we have remote and Zoom participation tonight. Councilor Conway and Councilor Samaras. Motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Chow. We have recognition of ambient photonics.
Did you hear the silence? Chow.
Moment of silence, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Okay, yeah, we can jump into that first then, sure. Before we get into the recognition. So, Councilor Conway, do a moment of
Yes,
silence.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Attorney Albert Marcotte. Attorney Albert Marcotte, a well-known lifetime resident of Lowell, died peacefully on October 16, 2020, in his home surrounded by his loving family. Born in Lowell on April 17, 1930, he was the son of the late Albert Marcotte and Irene McGugan Marcotte. Al, graduated valedictorian at Keith Academy, after which he attended Boston College and Boston College School of Law. He then served his country in the Army JAG Corp from 1955 until 1957. Upon returning to Lowell, he began practicing law while overseeing the family's businesses, the Eagle Cab Company and the Lowell Livery. After leaving these businesses to focus on his law practice, the boss built the Marcotte Law Firm into one of the preeminent firms in the Merrimack Valley. His firms have been instrumental in precedent-setting cases and is known statewide as the go-to firm. As a testament to his long list of accomplishments, he was the recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award from both the Massachusetts Academy of Trial Attorneys and the Greater Lowell Bar Association, the latter of which was named after him. Al loved sports and followed all the local teams. He was exceptionally loyal to the alma mater teams of Boston College. And during his early years, he was the top CYO pitcher. He was an avid runner for all his adult life, always outdoors no matter the weather. When his children were involved in local sports, he could be heard cheering them on in all their games. Al continued to be a great supporter of the Lowell High School athletic department, the Lowell Food Bank, and countless other local charities. He is survived by his wife, Vivienne Tremblay Marcotte of Hampton, New Hampshire, and their 6 children: Roberta Marcotte of Hampton, New Hampshire, Richard Marcotte of Pepperell, Mass., Philip Marcotte and his wife Christine of Chelmsford, Mass., Paula Malloy and her husband Danielle of Ridgefield, Connecticut, Peter Marcotte and his wife Joanne of Northampton, and attorney David Marcotte of Hampton, New Hampshire. He's also survived by 15 grandchildren: his beloved sister Virginia Hurd of Florida, his nephews Joe and John Hurd, nieces Joyce McInerney and Judy Hurd, and predeceased by his brother Robert Marcotte. Mr. Marcotte is also survived by his friend and caregiver, Faith Ann Lawler. May his soul rest in peace.
Sure, Councilor Chow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councilor Conway. That was a great summary of the Attorney Albert Marcot's life, whom I call the boss. I would just add a couple personal statements to that. I was fortunate enough to work for him for nearly a decade, and when we were at the 45 Merrimack Street office, we had the whole fourth floor together. And during my years there, we were in the other side of the main office and the 3 office just to ourselves, and we spent more time talking about philosophy and politics and life than reviewing cases. I've learned a lot about business, about life, about many things from the boss, and he always told me that working with him was better than going to Harvard Business School, and which I truly believe. He'll be truly missed, and to the Marcot Law Firm, staff, families, and clients, as the boss used to say, watch out for the cat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just say something.
Any,
I want to say something.
sure, Mr. Clark?
Yeah, I just want to make a quick note about Attorney Marcotte, the boss. Very, very good friend of my dad's, who was an attorney as well, and I can tell you, Al Marcotte helped me out tremendously when I began my practice of law back in the early 80s, and he was a good friend. He extended your hand. He was a helpful kind of guy and a very knowledgeable guy, and he's going to be missed, so I just wanted to note that.
Thank you. I have one more memorial for Leo C. Calhoun, 82, retired Lowell firefighter, uncle of Diane LeBlanc down the auditor's office. Leo C. Calhoun, 82, longtime resident of Lowell, passed away peacefully on Saturday, September 26, surrounded by his loved ones. Leo was born in Lowell, Mass. on August 26, 1938, son of the late Eugene R. Hunt and Hazel F. Mooney Calhoun. He attended Sacred Heart School, Lowell Tech, graduated in 1952. During his early years, he worked as an EMT. Leo was appointed to Lowell Fire Department on May 30th, 1965, and served nearly 20 years, retiring in February of 1985. He'll be fondly remembered for his love of camping, his famous French fries, his happy-go-lucky personality, as well as his ability to make everyone feel loved and welcome in his home. Leo enjoyed spending time with his family and friends and had a love of music and dancing and socializing. Leo is survived by and will be deeply missed by his loving son, Leo J. Calhoun, and his wife, Kimberly of Lowell, his loving daughter, Jean M. Calhoun of Lowell, his siblings, William Calhoun of Lowell, his wife, Joyce, sister-in-law, Barbara Calhoun, his beloved grandchildren, Tracy, Nicole, Tracy, Nicole, Leo, and Samantha and Johanna, and Lindsay, Mark Fortin, and his wife, Nikki Fortin, Courtney and Joey Paradin, and Vanessa Fortin, his longtime friend Earl Barnes, as well as several great grandchildren and nieces and nephews. If we can have a moment of silence in dock and chambers. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could we just ensure that the folks that are joining us by Zoom have been muted?
Oh, sure. Okay. So right now, we need a motion to So I need a motion to suspend the rules to do the presentations by you, Lowell, and sure, by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Noon. Madam Manager will do the presentations. Probably have you, Lowell, go first.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it is with great pleasure. I know, Mr. Mayor, you and councilors had invited the Chancellor to join us to make a presentation. We've all been very busy this particular semester, and Lowell, University of Massachusetts at Lowell is no different and has implemented a lot of changes as we've gone through this pandemic, and so it's with great pleasure I introduce Chancellor Jackie Maloney.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Madam Manager. Also, thank you, Mayor Leahy, and to all the members of the City Council. Really appreciate you having me here tonight. I promise I will keep the presentation brief and high level, as I know you always have a lot to consider. But before I go forward, I certainly would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of you as City Councilors for the very thoughtful leadership you have provided to this great city as we've moved through this pandemic. I know this has not been an easy time for you either. I'd also like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to my colleague and partner, City Manager Donahue. She has been with us from the beginning, she and her team, as we moved through some very difficult decisions and challenges as a university. They've provided us great advice, great support, and we're very, very fortunate to have them and the talent on her team, including Director of Health and Human Services, Joanne Belanger, who has just been fantastic to work with, and also the city's emergency operations team that's been working out with our EOC team, led by Chief, of course, Philip Sharon. Thank you for the spirit of cooperation that you've shown. And of course, you know, Lowell is a very special place. We say it all the time, but of course, in the face of adversity, this is exactly when we come together. And my experience through this pandemic has been no different. And I really appreciate our partnership and our good work together. For us at the university, we've been working around the clock. I know that you have as well, putting in place the kind of safety measures that we all need to pay attention to maximize our student experiences this fall. And I'm pleased to say that we have been achieving very strong results. Of course, in this pandemic and these days, you're afraid to say anything positive, so a lot of knock on wood, but right now, we feel we are on very strong and solid footing at the university. This fall, while many institutions struggled with enrollment, we saw an uptick on our campus at UMASS Lowell. We welcomed our largest class ever, 18,400 students. As you know, in the fall, we did scale back what we had hoped to do. It was in an abundance of caution as we watched over the summer as other colleges and universities opened early without the kind of comprehensive testing in place that we did. But we did pull back, and so we have about 700 students living on campus. About 8% of our instruction has been face-to-face. The rest has been through remote and distance learning. It's been phenomenal to watch the team. They really pivoted on a dime. Most of our operations are going virtually, the same as what you are all going through in your businesses and in the city. Of course, we're very fortunate to have been an early pioneer in the online instruction. It certainly has served us well going through this pandemic. Our faculty have really stepped up. Our students have been wonderful interacting across the university. And for right now, for the most part, feeling very satisfied with the experience that they've had. Of course, all the other good work that we're doing continues. Our research lab continue to pump up the great work that they're doing. We just announced $12 million in federal funding along with Congresswoman Trahan. We really appreciated her support. And of course, we all know what a point of pride our UMass Lowell iHub is and the M2D2. Many of you as city councilors have visited this area and know that the research is there and the startups are now pivoting themselves and looking into areas where they can contribute to help us solve problems around testing and the development of equipment and vaccine to fight this pandemic. So we're very grateful to all of them for that. And of course, the question that I probably get more than anything in the city is, when is hockey coming back? So of course, sadly, we did have to postpone our fall sports. We're still hoping to have some competitions in the spring, and we're working on that with America East. But as of today, we are planning to go forward with our pre-conference ice hockey. They'll be announcing their schedule soon, so stay tuned, but likely toward the end of November. Also, our men's and women's basketball teams will be planning to play. Again, we'll have very, very strict protocols around it. A lot of this will also be guided by the NCAA, which is these athletes will be tested 3 times a week to compete. So there's a lot going to be happening. We promise to keep you updated so you can live stream all the games, and I know you'll be excited as we will to see these students back and competing. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. And so the testing, which has been what everyone's been interested in, as I mentioned, 700 students living on the campus, perhaps another 700 living around the campus. We have gone through a very rigid, comprehensive protocol for testing, all on-campus students being tested every week, as well as students who live around the campus, or some groups who are being tested every week. We're also having all of our athletes, some of them who live around the campus, tested every week, along with forward-facing faculty and staff. As you can see, only 3 positive cases out of 9,000 tests that were administered. We're 8 months into the semester. We're so proud of our students and the way they have conducted themselves. Of course, we have a very comprehensive quarantine and isolation protocol in place that we work through, which Joanne Belanger. So we feel very confident in these measures, and they are working for us. Of course, we've also reduced the number of people on the campus physically each day. We have very, very comprehensive cleaning, safety protocols. Everybody's wearing face masks, socially distancing. So again, we feel very confident about what we've been able to accomplish this semester. If I could have the next slide, please. And of course, throughout all of this, we've maintained our commitment to be a strong community partner. As you know, we did open the field hospital working with our partners at Lowell General Hospital. You see Amy Hoey here, but Jody White was also very involved, along with the manager and Joanne Belanger, as we looked at the response in Lowell and the need. They turned to UMASS Lowell, and we were happy to have our recreation center serve as a field hospital. Gratefully, we did not need it, but we were there if it was needed. Our teams across the university worked over really continuously to share with the community PPE that were much needed. We were actually making PPEs in our Fabric Discovery Center. We had volunteers working there, and you can see some of the beneficiaries. We spread those across the city, including to groups like the Boys and Girls Club. Of course, we've also maintained constant communication with all of you, our city officials. Thanks to all of you who have taken my calls, and for those of you who have reached out, of course, with the emergency ops centers, the Lowell Health Department, and Lowell General. We know these communications are key. And you see here the Fabric Discovery Center. We're so proud that Governor Baker always turns to the city of Lowell and to UMass Lowell when he's looking for an example of good partners. Here he is at the Innovation Hub when he was touring the state on his State of the Commonwealth addresses around COVID. So again, we're very proud of the work that we're all doing together, and we look forward to doing more of it, including getting back to that green city partnership we have with the university. UMass Lowell was just raised again in the Sierra Club rankings to the number 16 cool school. We know that everyone's been preoccupied just getting through the day, but we do look forward to getting back to that green city partnership. And the next slide, please. And finally, of course, our students, as they came on campus, all agreed to a community agreement that really clearly outlined for them the safety protocols that we've put in place. It's a very strict student conduct code. We have gone through this with all of our student leaders. Honestly, you see the outline of obviously no large gatherings. We have not heard a lot of complaints from neighborhood, but we have worked very, very closely with LPD, our own security force, as well as our student affairs team to really emphasize to these students, it really is a shared responsibility. And that is how we've gotten through this pandemic together. I could not be more proud of our students, only 3 positives since the beginning of school. They recognize that right now this is a gift to them to have as much as we have. They are eager to come back. We are looking forward to the spring. We just announced, you may have seen in the Lowell Sun, and I've reviewed. Thank you for advancing the slide. I have reviewed with the city manager and with our local hospital officials our plans to do the spring semester in a way that we had originally planned the fall semester, with up to 30% of our instruction face-to-face. We would safely increase that residential population, 1 student to a room, up to 2,000 students, about 40% of our occupancy. We will continue this strict protocol for testing, which I do think is a really key part of our success. It really reinforces for the students each week, this is important. You need to take care of yourself. There is a lot riding on your safety and our collective safety. And once again, they have really shown themselves to be responsible, resilient young adults. I couldn't be more proud of them. And again, we're really hopeful to reopen, but we will continue as we have going through this pandemic. We've gotten used to it, I think all of us, as being, staying up to date. We will be working with the city and state officials, and again with our own president's office and board of trustees as we go forward and continue to return to normal as soon as possible. In the meantime, I very much welcome any questions any of you have for me.
Thank you. Any questions from the councilors? Madam Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank the Chancellor. I can tell you that she and her team have been absolutely wonderful to work with. Everyone from, as was mentioned, our health department working closely with her health department on a daily basis. We have not experienced a big spike in infection rates with college students, and we do knock on wood, but we thank the university for their diligence. Our police department has worked closely with yours. Our Chief Richardson has worked with your chief to, communicate and work hand in hand. And Chancellor, I can tell you, I know you emphasize over and over again safely returning, and we welcome that day because I think all of us miss your students. I know our businesses miss your students. The vitality that you bring to our neighborhoods and streets and in the downtown. So we all look forward to the day that you can safely return to normal. So thank you.
And we just wanted to say that we do miss your big smile on campus. I think now you are the most popular chancellor in the whole system, so.
Thank you for that, both of you.
Thank you. And I think Councilor Samaras had something to say. Councilor Samaras?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chancellor, thank you very much for that great presentation. I think what's very important for all of us to hear that even during this horrific time, you've been able to make the university grow. And you've given us a very positive outlook. And that's more than I think what we all expected. We expected, that you would handle the situation, but to be able to show that the university during this hard time is making steps to go forward. The question I have, I don't think you could really answer it very, you can't give us a simple answer, but the numbers that you're giving us, really show a great deal of cooperation that you're receiving from your students and your staff. There's no question about that. I guess you set up a plan and you've done it right, but is this, I'd just like to know, what do you think has allowed you to be that successful? Because a lot of colleges aren't. A concern that we have in the city is the number of people who are not wearing masks, who are not, just being diligent or just doing what they should do, you know? Is there an easy answer to this, or is it, do you say it's just that you had a lot of cooperation and that's it?
It's a great question, Councilor Samaras, and thank you for your ongoing support of the university. You've been a great colleague and friend, and encouraging us in the economic development in our role. So thank you for all your leadership.
Thank you.
in that space. So it's a great question. We're actually getting calls. We, again, knock on wood, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it is a tribute to these students, right? And that they have taken this so seriously, and I do believe it is the culture here. We like to say at UMASS, well, we are all in, and there has been tremendous shared sacrifice across this university. We've had to go through furloughs, we've had temporary layoffs. Our students are part, I tell them, I meet with the student government leaders every month, and I tell them they're part of our crisis management team, and they have been. They are sending the message to each other. This is your university. This is a defining moment for us. And they have, I think, distinguished themselves with their behavior. So I do think the messaging, if we can help in any way, I think some of the messaging we've used across the campus. But I do think the city's done a lot of that as well. But again, I think as a community, we all need to keep just sending the message. We know now, I say it to my students all the time, this works. The hand sanitizer works. So I think that all of you have been doing that as counselors. I've seen you publicly say it. The manager has said it. And so I think together, and if there's any way our students can help with that messaging, you just let us know. We're here for you.
But I think you gave a good answer though when you talk about the culture of the school. I mean, it's far more difficult to, bring a city together, but I think if we can get that message to everybody that it should be part of our whole way of thinking. Thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Conway?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, Chancellor, thank you for the presentation. And I congratulate you and the staff and especially the students at the university for the absolutely incredible success that you people have displayed. When you first started off, you talked about partnership, and that is such a key. As soon as you hear partnership, I equate it with Lowell. And we're talking about the college, the university, the nonprofits, and the business community. So thank you for bringing that out. And again, the university, I don't know what you're doing up there because you're dealing with 20-year-olders, and you have that type of success rate. I think that certainly is a model for other universities and colleges and businesses too. So I think you need to model whatever you're doing up there and continue. So again, congratulations. And as you well know, the city is here, and city manager has talked about the university and what a great partnership, how well that you people work together. And whatever the city can do and the city council can do, that we're always there for you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Conway. I do know that you're always there. And I think one of the last times we spoke, we were right here in the office together thinking about the great things that we could all work on. And I know you're such a champion of education. And we do have that unique opportunity. And I do think increasingly the university and city partnership is becoming renowned. And again, I think the work that we're doing together through this pandemic, at the end of the day, this story will be told. It's something to be proud of. I know it feels hard right now, but we will get to the other end of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Maloney. We look forward to continuing our work together. Thank you for sharing your thoughts tonight with us.
Thank you, Mayor Leahy, and I know that you're one of our biggest hockey fans, so
Mr.
we'll
Mayor?
find a way to get you to see those hockey games, right? Thank you.
Sure,
for
if we
all
can
your
get back in. I
support.
think
Yeah.
Councilor Noon had one thing to say too.
I just want to give a pitch that I know that the university do weekly testing for on-campus student as well as staffing. And I know we are a good partner as a city. I know that you have nursing school student, and we do as a city right now because of the uptick looking to do to re-implement the free testing, meaning that doing that we do need body, we do need student, university student can help. So would you reach out to the manager? Would you do what you can to help us with staffing? Yes, university student basically and work study, right?
Sure.
And so we can restart this, re-implement this free testing because to maybe to get rid of this uptick of COVID. I thank you for doing that.
That's a great point, Counselor. I know the manager had spoken to me when they had the free testing in the city, what a great impact it was having. And as I said to Mike, I know it has a huge impact on the students and their mindset, right? So any way we can help, I'd definitely be happy to work with manager.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Madam Manager, Wind Companies?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a motion presented and passed by the council by Councilors Rourke and Noon asking that we reach out and invite Wind Development to come to a council meeting and make a presentation in and around strategies about affordable housing and increasing housing stock in the city. And so we did invite them. They are joining us on Zoom this evening. I know Councilor Conway doesn't look like Wind Development, but they're there somewhere, I think. Maybe he'll give the presentation instead. But so they are here this evening somewhere to give this presentation. I think I see someone in the
Yes.
in the
Madam
lineup.
Manager.
There you are.
Michael O'Brien, Executive Vice President with Wind Companies. Tough act to follow. The wonderful work being done by Chancellor Maloney and her team at Lowell. I'm a UMASS trustee. I'm quite proud to be a UMASS trustee, and I've watched with amazement the fantastic work happening on campus and the collaboration that takes place with the city. It's refreshing. So thank you for having us this evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors, and obviously to our work with the city manager and her team. It's indeed a pleasure always to be in and around and making wonderful things happen in the city of Lowell. So as we all know, working hand in glove, we are now underway with the construction of Parcels 8 and 9, a wonderful project. It'll be new homes, 125 new homes for existing Lowellians and also hopefully new additions to the Lowell community. Just for some quick breakdown, it is approximately 15 studios, 63 one-bedrooms, and 47 two-bedrooms. And I know this was important during our deliberations and working with the city manager and then correspondingly with council. There are 32 market units in the development. And those rents would range from approximately $1,500 to $2,400. There are 54 middle-income units, and those rents will range from $1,500 to approximately $2,000. And then there are 39 units that are at 60% area median income, and those rents will range from approximately $500 to $1,250. But all in, the development, which is progressing famously, is about a $50 million total development cost, so a significant reinvestment in Lowell. And we've obviously been bullish on Lowell for some 20 years with all of our collective developments there. So it's a great addition to our overall portfolio, and we're excited about it, but it's also a great addition to the Hamilton Canal and to the city. So state-of-the-art housing, we also, in our negotiations, and we agreed with a smile after some tough negotiations with the manager, we agreed to put 5,000 square feet of commercial space as well in the property, knowing it's going to be a well-traveled way on Canal Street over to the Hamilton Canal, as well as the new parking garage, which was a fabulous investment by the community. in Hamilton Canal to support both Hamilton Canal as well as some of the developments on Jackson Street as the new courthouse, et cetera. So wonderful job. My compliments to the city. It's at times, as you'd expect, negotiations can get tense, but everything's done in good faith, wonderfully transparent in the transactions, and a true partnership. And I think that was mentioned by Councilor Samaras in his comments about University of Lowell. It really does feel that way, and it's appreciated on this side. It's the way we do business. One of the wonderful things we're going to do as part of all this, which we didn't always recognize was going to be something we'd be responsible for, but we got to great terms, is we're going to stabilize the existing remnant wall from the former factory along the canal. So that's a wonderful historic resource for years ahead, and a constant reminder of what made Lowell so great and is continuing to be part of the foundation that we build from as we look forward. So with that, some of the details I'll turn over to Matt Curtin, our Senior Project Director, who will talk to you about the progress on the sites, which is exciting. As you know, Parcels 8 and 9, very narrow parcels right up against the canal, and sloping off from Canal Street down to the water's edge. And the sites had been cleaned up, but there was some potential that deep down we might find some hazmat, and the water table's very close to the water line of the canal. So those were challenges we had to deal with and sort through and figure properly through. And we've done all that, including bifurcating 2 residential buildings with a city street traveling underneath, and then building a wonderful bridge reminiscent of the factory bridges that connected various buildings. We're going to also pursue. So with that, Matt, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mike. Madam Manager, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Matt Curtin, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you for the invitation. As Mike said, today we're about 25% complete. We're through all our site work, foundations in, and as you can see here, which is really the most exciting part, I think, is we're going vertical. So we've got a couple levels of steel up on both sites right now. We're actually, for floors 3 and 4, going to be wood framing, and that actually started today. And then you can see here, this is parcel 8 looking towards loft 27. Our elevator shaft is in, which is going to take folks from the canal level amenities all the way up to a beautiful roof deck overlooking the HCID in downtown. Utility work is ongoing. Parcel 8 is, I would say, the lead horse right now by design. When you drive by the site, you'll see Parcel 9's trailing. We started, as Mike said, the site's very linear. We're working east to west. So everything you see on 9 is probably trailing Parcel 8 by 30 or 45 days by design. Right now, I'm very happy to report that we're continuing on schedule. As you know, we started this project in earnest in the spring, really during the height of the pandemic. And we've been very fortunate. We've got an outstanding team out there. They understand the safety protocols. They've been collaborating with their partners at the city. The city has been a fantastic partner in this process. And so we've maintained our schedule. Some of the upcoming milestones here that we're looking at, I would say the big ticket takeaway is we're started wood framing today. Our hope is by March or April to have a fully tight building, and then really start working in earnest on the interior areas in late spring, early summer of next year. And then the bottom line, we're looking to deliver completed buildings in early 2022. Parcel 8, hopefully February, Parcel 9, about a month and a half thereafter. Actually, one of the things we were talking about today is we plan to have a model unit to tour people through. Our intention is to have it ready for this time next year. So would love the opportunity to bring the council through when we have that ready. To the invitation at hand, and we're thrilled to be here tonight. The question was posed to Mike and I, what does it take to build housing, to build more housing in Lowell? And really the answer to that question applies to Lowell and really anywhere. And fundamentally, it boils down to, can you rent apartments at a level sufficient to finance the costs? And to use an analogy for those who have purchased a home before, when the bank gives you a loan based upon your income, and then you come up with the difference between that loan amount and the home price with equity, precisely the same principles apply here. So the challenge that we face is total development costs in this market are so high that to build, for instance, a one-bedroom unit in Lowell and finance it with conventional financing plan, you've got to be able to rent that one bedroom for about $3,000 a month, which, as you might imagine, is a tough hurdle to meet. So this problem, though, isn't something that's uncommon in our area. Frankly, unless you're in Boston or Cambridge, it's incredibly difficult to achieve rents that support financing deals. And really, they either just end up not happening, or there are public-private partnerships that allow for this hurdle to be overcome. And we'll touch on that in this, and I know Mike has a ton of experience with that from both sides of the table, both from the public sector and from the private side. The problem that we wrestle with is total development costs are driven by construction costs, obviously. Construction costs are regional. So to build in Boston, to build in Lowell, to build in Stoneham, to build in Framingham is really essentially the same. But rents themselves are hyper-local. The rent you're going to get in Boston or Cambridge is not what you'll get in Lowell, Stoneham, or Framingham. So the challenge that we're faced and that we take on at Win every single day is how do we pencil out these Boston construction costs with the rents in the markets that we love to be in and we're excited about. This is really when we say that, rents have to support the total development cost. This is an illustration of that point. Obviously, rents drive the income that the property can achieve. The income less the expenses gives you the property's operating income. And that operating income, based upon the going borrowing rates, allow you to size a permanent loan. Again, permanent loan is just like a first mortgage for those of you who are homeowners. Your income divided by the borrowing rate, how the bank sizes the loan. In the end, you need to come up with a loan amount and then a certain amount of equity to equal the total development costs. And I think one of the key hurdles is you not only have to come up with that equity, but your project has to demonstrate that it generates cash flow that provides a sufficient return to the folks providing that equity, which could be a very high hurdle to meet. So in the interest of brevity, I promise I will not go through the mechanics of this, but Mike and I wanted to be open book and show the council kind of how the sausage is made when we're doing this analysis on what kind of rents do we have to achieve to meet a project's total development costs. So we used a hypothetical example of $425,000 is the cost to build one unit, which Mike and I can tell you is real based upon what we did at Parcels 8 and 9 and the going costs on some of our other deals in the Boston market. And once you understand that development cost, you can really work backwards to get to the rent, by understanding the current borrowing rates and terms, the expectations on returns from your equity investors, and that's how you arrive at the rent you need to finance the deal, call it in a conventional method. And so, really, to drill down on it, the rent that you would need to achieve to build a one-bedroom in Lowell that costs $425,000 is over $3,200 a month. And, the question is ultimately, can you secure that rent in Lowell? right now, I can tell you from, as the one who commissioned an unrelated third party to give me a market study for parcels 8 and 9, what they told me was at 8 and 9, Matt, you can assume you'll achieve $18.20 a month for a one bed at parcels 8 and 9. So, as you can see here, obviously well short of the 3,200, the bottom line is that rent supports only about 40% of the cost to build that unit. And so, obviously, these deals are still getting built. We're building them, and we're excited about all the markets that we're in that aren't Boston and Cambridge. So the question is, how does that happen? How do you fill that gap, that $250,000 gap? And it's via public-private partnerships, which I know the city of Lowell is extremely well-versed in, super savvy on. I can say that from personal experience. Mike, maybe I'd ask you to speak to some of these. I know you've dealt with them.
Sure. Thank you, Matt, and great job, by the way. The reality is it was life in action with the work we did with the city manager, her talented team, and the city council. And so we look to various partnerships that can address that gap. In a situation where we're working within an historic factory, you would have subsidies such as federal historic tax credits and state historic tax credits, which would help address some of that gap. In this case, we're doing new construction, and new construction obviously doesn't allow for those credits. But there are the credits we look to, and those credits we look to are also kind of benchmarked against and means tested against the community's desire to, in this case, provide mixed income housing. So we sought and secured state low-income housing tax credits for those affordable units, which in essence, the state participates in the capital stack or the dollars to fill that gap. And then we have to, as a means of renting, provide subsidized rents or lower rents so that we can properly house and have them be able to meet the rent costs to those of affordable salaries. We'll also look to the state and local governments for subordinate loans. Those might come through the home program in Lowell, and it could be through the block grant. As we did in Lowell, but we look to in other communities as well, how can we seek some small measure of tax relief and put those dollars towards our net operating income, so therefore being able to borrow against that and then therefore meet that gap. And so we'll work with engaged communities in a back and forth negotiation to find out where is that balance and hopefully be able to find some negotiated amount so that we can help, again, close that gap that was mentioned by Matt. Oftentimes we'll seek building permit relief. It might not be the whole amount of the building permit. It may be that we'll seek some percentage reduction in that. Again, those dollars going directly to help fill that gap. As we worked in Lowell on these two parcels, understanding that we had some contamination and water table issues and other things, we negotiated a below market purchase price for parcels 8 and 9. That again helped us bridge that gap. And this is very similar to what we do in communities throughout Massachusetts or really throughout the nation. And then parking relief. Obviously, the world's changing and mass transit's becoming more and more a norm, and rightfully so because of carbon emission and being green and making sure we're thinking long-term about our planet. And so even then, having relief on parking from the community so we don't have to create as many spaces, or we can make use of properly positioned and managed municipal garages, and or maybe giving us access to some available surface parking. All of that helps to create the recipe and the ultimate batter in being able to all come together and cook to create this, which is the success we found in Lowell so far on so many projects, but certainly with parcels 8 and 9. And what I would say, in kind of wrapping this up before we go to questions too, is that your approach to this as a community, where you've got transparency, you've got communication about what's happening and when, and presenting these projects to the community as a whole, and then walking through a process where the community can participate and understand, is critical to success. And for us, we want to be in communities where we're wanted, and we want to go through a process as Lowell puts forth, because in the end, it really does come down to a win-win-win. And I can't tell how many times I've used that, but it's how we like to operate, and we are grateful to have been able to come to a great consensus around parcels 8 and 9. And for us, looking forward, if there are other ideas that the community has, that Lowell has, and you think of Win as that partner, we'd be very interested. Where, as I said early on, we've been bullish on Lowell for 20 years, and that bullish attitude continues. So with that, thank you, and we look forward to any questions.
Madam Manager?
Thank you. Thank you, Mike and Matt. And I thank you for the work you're doing out there. I did have an opportunity to be out there recently to inspect the garage, and the amount of activity going on parcels 8 and 9 was quite impressive. You were going full steam, the construction there, the construction on the bridge, the construction on the roads, and the garage. It's the Hamilton Canal Innovation District is a beehive of activity, and your project looks like it will be quite beautiful, where it's located adjacent to the canal and the remnant wall and the bridge that connects the two buildings. And it will be beautiful housing for the families that will be living there in the not too distant future. So thank you for partnering, and you are right, it is a partnership, public-private partnership, so thank you for investing.
Yeah, Madam Manager, I always say I love the smell of diesel in the morning. It smells like victory. So that's about the tractors and the bulldozers and all that material getting pushed around to make progress.
It is quite different than it was not too long ago, so very exciting to see happening.
Thank you. Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Green and Matt, for accepting the opportunity to be here to give us this presentation. The manager is correct that we need a private and public partnership like yours, and we want to build on that partnership with you, and at the same time looking to reach out for partnership like you, because we are affordable housing in the city, and thank you for willingness to be a partner with the city, and we look to learn from you more down in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rourke, then Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this, I guess, could go to either the manager or to the wind people. So with the last slide that was up there in regards to tax relief and permit relief and the parking and tax credits, these are the things that a city has to do in order to create affordable housing. When you have companies such as Wind coming in, investing millions upon millions of dollars in a community, so in order to get that level field of allowing them to build these incredible apartments or places to live, these are the things that a city has to provide in order to get this done. Make sense?
Yeah, Council, that's absolutely right. We had obviously a district that had nothing happening in it, and this will have housing, but in order, you saw the gap between what the cost of construction is and what the rents can supply, and there is a big gap there. So that is where all these other tools, both from the city, from the state, they need to be utilized so that, and be creative. And I think, Win is one of the best who does this type of work, quality project, quality construction and housing, but also is savvy at how to put a project together, because otherwise on paper, it doesn't make sense. The numbers don't work without all those tools.
Right, so, so basically, it could not be done, right? And I know that we talk about housing in the city and affordable housing in the city, and these are the things that, the council asks the manager and the administration to do in order to create more affordable housing, for all of Lowell's residents, correct? Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank you gentlemen for coming forward and believing in Lowell and making things happen in an area that was like desolate. It's just amazing the things that you're doing. I'm concerned as well about there'll be 125 units and there'll be space in surface parking. Out of those units, how much space are we talking about with the surface parking? And will that be for people that are moving in that would be handicapped? That's concerning to me. Do we have any?
We had worked very closely, hand in glove. Similar concerns were raised by the manager, city manager Donahue, as well as the city team. And as a result, obviously because the parcels themselves are fairly small, and underground parking is about $40,000 per space for cost. So you could see how quickly that would skyrocket and prevent a project like this happening. Not to mention we've got water table very close to the water line of the canal. So we'd have a problem with water. So for all that, we've worked and we've got through negotiations to have parking spaces available to us both at the garage on Jackson Street, and as well the new garage at the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. As a result of those two spots, as Lowell has been so smart in their economic development, our residents are typically coming home at night when your businesses are locking up for the evening, and so therefore those spaces turn over. So you're getting a great 24-hour use of your garages and maximizing those assets, and as well as we're paying fees for our residents to park there. So that's how we'll address the parking. Matt, do you want to go into some detail as how we'll address ADA parking?
Of course. We'll certainly, we have a number of ADA residential units that we're building, the code, of course. Those tenants will be able to avail themselves of the ADA spaces in the garage. There's no set-aside spaces within the garage. It's, nothing is dedicated with a Parcels 8 and 9 sign on it. So those spaces will be accessible to our handicapped tenants. Further, one of the things that Mike and I had to prove out to our lenders was not just that we have the spaces available in the garage, but also that the entire length of the path from the garage to the front door of the property to the residence units, we proved out with the architect that it was a fully accessible route for those tenants.
The reason I ask these questions about ADA, people with disabilities, is from experience with the people that live in the Appleton Mills. There are a few people there that have a handicapped, and they sometimes go into the garage and those spots are taken, and meters on the street are taken, and I hear like nightmares of people that have to park so far away that there's no space available in the Jackson early garage, and it troubles me. So I don't want to have this beautiful building with 125 units, and we're getting calls from people that are handicapped and they don't have a place to park, and they have to take a cab from where they're parking further away to come home. That's what I'm hearing, and it's troubling to hear that, and I'm certainly sure that you'll address that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Your points are well taken, and we will begin to look at this closely with our city partners to find out what we might do to address those dedicated ADA units that we have and those occupants to find closer available parking.
Thank you, Madam Manager.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor, I know there are approximately 20 dedicated ADA spaces in the new garage, and it is quite remarkable. I think when the council comes out to the garage, when we open it and can tour, you almost feel like you can touch the project at 8 and 9. It is so close, and the signature bridge is right outside the garage and connects right over to 8 and 9. So it was hard to imagine on paper how close these projects would be, but I was almost taken aback when I looked over the balcony of the garage and saw all the work going. It seemed, it was right next to it. So between the early garage and this new garage, there will be plenty of spaces, especially around this project, 8 and 9.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councilor Conway and then Councilor Chow. Councilor Conway?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I think Councilor Samaras had his hand up before I did.
Could you just go first, because we got to
That's
know.
okay.
Sure, thank you.
All right, thank you. First of all, I want to echo my colleagues' comments because, again, I want to thank the Wind Development for this project and a great presentation. And it's another example, as we've talked about, the public-private partnerships. And I think that's been a theme so far, what we've had tonight when we're talking about the university and talking about this company here, Wind Development. Again, I want to thank you for believing in Lowell and coming here. This is not your first trip here. You've been here for decades. And again, I thank you for that. I also want to thank the fact that, it's my understanding that you actually brought somewhere in the vicinity of 100 of your employees from the Boston area up to Lowell, which, that I think is an absolutely incredible investment, should we say. It speaks volumes. So again, and over the years, I mean, let's face it, these economic times, they're so very difficult. And we have companies like this company, your company, that is investing time, effort, energy, money into it. And, it certainly helps Lowell in so many different ways. And look at the taxes that Lowell has had the benefit of in the last couple of decades. So again, I thank you. I think we all do, and we, needless to say, look forward to the completion of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
If I could just quickly respond, Counselor, thank you for the kind words. What's not to love about Lowell? And we're here because you want us and want to see our investments, but in that public-private partnership, both sides benefit, and we're grateful for that. And to that end, we did move over 100 employees from downtown Boston, the financial district, to Lowell. It was a big move. It created some challenges as we undertook it, but it's been one of the most successful things office organization-wise we've done. And we've got very happy employees that are from the Lowell area. And recruitment has been easier. Our employees that we hire from the Lowell and Middlesex area are with us longer because they're happier, and we continue to grow, and we're looking to expand, actually. So thank you for that recognition. Thank you for the help when we did that move and moved our employees up at downtown Boston, and we look forward to continuing to grow and grow with Lowell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Chow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Michael and Matthew, for your presentation. You two make a good tag team, presenting both the conceptual and the technical side to developing this project in that area. And I really appreciate the challenges of the cost of construction and rental income, which will support the project in the future. And I want to thank you for investing in Lowell. We all know that area is in real need of this type of development, and not too many entities or corporations has the resources to do what you do. To echo all my colleagues' compliments to you is that thank you for believing in Lowell. I just have a question because I think one of the exciting mixes of the units is that you're able to include the affordable units to it. And I'm sure that many people, once completed, I think a lot of people would want to rent that unit for the affordable housing side. And I'm not quite sure if it's a question for Madam Manager or for Michael to answer, but how would you determine, considering there's going to be a lot of people who want to rent that unit, because I think it's going to be a fantastic unit. How do you determine who qualify if there's a lot of people applying for that unit?
So thank you, Counselor, for your kind words and your support. As we've been fortunate to find, when we produce high-quality homes like this in these communities for residents and for new residents of Lowell, great interest comes about, both from those that are part of your community and those that want to be part of the community. And that interest generates real desire to rent. So we'll start pre-leasing probably 2 months prior to when we'll actually have our certificate of occupancy and be open for business. And we'll manage, whether it be market, our middle income, and our affordable units on a first come, first served basis. And with that, we have to follow rules established by our partners at the state and federal government, as well as mass housing. And in that, we have to go through what are fairly detailed income certifications and backgrounds and the like. And provided that the applicant meets all those requirements, then they would be eligible for one of these new units. So there'll be an organized process. We'll make sure, Madam Manager, and to the council, we'll brief this board and the administration as to the timing of that, so that there could be, additional word out, and we look forward to it. As a general rule, we find that even before we cut the ribbon with all of you, we'll be 98% leased up right at that point in time, which is exciting. It's not as if, some of this does take measured risk, but that's a great affirmation of our collective work when you see a project like this that's almost 100% leased up before you even open.
Thank you. Councilor Drinkwater and then Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really appreciate this motion and this presentation. Think this is a great project. Housing supply is such a big problem, and I think any project that can bring in 125 new units of housing, and particularly across a range of income levels, is just a very exciting thing for this community. And I wanted to just take a brief moment to commend wind companies for a step they took during this pandemic to very early on in the crisis, before the governor even took action on putting a moratorium on evictions. Wind companies actually did this for their own properties and has extended that moratorium to the end of the year. I just think it's something that shows that wind companies are a great community partner in all the communities that they're in, and they understand the depths of this crisis and what people are facing right now. So I saw that, and I thought that was something commendable, and just wanted to make sure the public knew that as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. That came from the top, from Gilbert Wind, the CEO, and Larry Curtis, the president of Wind Development, and it, as you said, came from the heart. And we've actually worked closely with state administration and federal government on eviction policy and mediation and other means, including rent stabilization, to keep people in their homes through this. So we're working at all levels, side by side with all of you, to get through this COVID challenge and keep people housed safely, and hopefully, when this is all said and done, back on their feet and ready for the new economy.
Thank you. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. Michael and Matt, thank you for your presentation. It was terrific. I'd like to go back to Councilor Conway did bring up a very good point. When you talk about a true partnership, you talked about you establishing an office in Lowell. That really is a true partnership, because not only have you been building in Lowell, but you've established a very large office in this city. So thank you for all of that. A while back, when this project was first discussed, I was asking for 10,000 square feet of commercial space. And I want to thank you and the manager for saving at least 5,000 square feet of commercial space. I know how tough it is in these times. You're going beyond the pale to do what you're doing. I think people don't realize that you're also taking a risk, but I think it's a risk that's going to be very valuable to you and to the city. But I think by at least keeping the 5,000 square feet of commercial space available, you're setting the right tone. You're setting a tone that we wanted to see of mixed development in this area. So I really want to thank you for that during these times, for doing something like that. You know, when you talk about partnerships, that's a true partnership. You're willing to listen and you're willing to work with the city manager to take steps. And you know, the perils of being a city manager, you know, you've made this, you're making this work, and you're keeping to the original desire that most of us had for this area. Thank you.
Council, I would say this, that City Manager Donahue is tough, fair, very tough, fair, and fun. So you put those three together, you get through issues like commercial space.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, do you have anything else to say about
No,
your
just that,
fun
you know,
and fairness?
they've been, you know, Wynn's been a terrific partner to the city for many years. And this project, not an easy one, and it's going to be really one of the best projects. I think, you know, from the added units, Diane Trad did point out to me, between this project and the Appleton Mills, there's over 231 total affordable housing units, which is good for the city. There's a mix of housing. The Signature Bridge, which this council had voted to name after former Congresswoman Tsongas, which we're working on a date, not only is it attractive, but it's going to have 8-foot wide sidewalks across, plenty of room for people to go back and forth from one side to the other, from the garage to this project. It's really a spectacular area that's being developed down there. So, but thank you for what Wynn has brought to the table. And as I said, true professionals, and we know that they will produce a great product.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Okay. Being after oh, sorry, Councilor Elliott.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't say a few words, and I'll probably be as brief as everyone. You know, this project was dead a number of years ago, so we've come a long way. And I have to tell you, I was pleased to file the motion to bring this back. We're gonna see the benefits of those seeds that we planted way back when. And it wasn't easy, but there was nothing going on prior to this in the Hamilton Canal. And now we see, as we expected, once development starts, once we get some people living down there, we get people who are going to be parking there. We have developments right before us tonight that I think are a terrific addition. And as a result of development going on in the Hamilton Canal, we're going to see more. So much needed housing certainly is a benefit, and but I think we also need to continue to let people know at home that you go down to downtown now, and COVID is a little bit, has an impact, but we need people living downtown because we need people who will be spending money downtown if we want a vibrant downtown. So win-win all the way around. Glad the city, as we always do, when big votes come, we need to provide incentives to get development, and here's a prime example, and I'm pleased that I supported it and moving forward. Thank you, Michael.
If I could, just quickly in response, Michael O'Brien again. I'd say, Councilor, thank you for your support, and on some of the darker days in the project, for your pep talks. Kept us in the fight. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. And Mike, I just want to say thank you from the chair. If you hadn't built these buildings, I'd still be hanging flags down there with local artist Barbara Poole, because Councilor Elliott recommended me to help her a number of years ago, and I think for 2 or 3 years I was down there spring and fall hanging and taking flags off. So thank you for expediting this
Yeah,
project.
I'm supposed to call you about, once we put the new flagpoles up, to have you continue on in that job, so
Yeah,
we'll
I'll
be in
look
touch.
forward to it. Thank you.
Let the record reflect, Mayor Leahy dropped the ladders off and then had other business to attend to.
Yeah. All right, thank you,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
All right. Being after 7 o'clock, we have to go to the general public hearings, and then we'll go back to the agenda. We have ordinance to amend sidewalk seating outside restaurant, 5-1. Second reading, Commonwealth, Massachusetts, and City Council, City of Lowell ordinance, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, as amended by Chapter 243, Article 4, sidewalks generally by amending 243-23, entitled Street Seats in Public Space. I'll now open the public hearing to to all those in favor. In favor? In favor? That portion is closed. Open it up to anybody in opposition. Opposition? Opposition? That portion is closed. I need a motion to adopt by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Any comments? Roll call?
Counselor Rourke,
Yes.
Counselor Samaras,
Yes.
Counselor Chow,
Yes.
Counselor Conway, Counselor Elliott,
Yes.
Counselor Drinkwater,
Yes.
Mayor Leahy,
Yes.
Counselor Mercia,
Yes.
Counselor Noon.
Yes.
8 yeas.
Mr. Mayor, just quickly, so I know we talked about, Madam Manager, after December 1st, about a pilot program. A couple of businesses that I frequent had asked about that. Will DPD be reaching out to them to see if they're willing to take part in something?
Yes, yeah. Christine McCall is underway, reaching out, working with the businesses to see what they would need and what they would desire, so that we can come up with a program that's going to suit our businesses best.
Thank you. 5-2, ordinance create position and salary nurse case management, manager law. Second reading. Commonwealth, Massachusetts, City of Lowell, City Council ordinance, an ordinance creating one new position of nurse case manager and establishing the salary in the law department. Open up the hearing to all those in favor. In favor? In favor? Hearing none. All those opposed, open up the hearing to those opposed. Opposed? In opposition? That portion is closed. Need a motion to adopt by Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Mercia. Roll call?
Counselor Rourke.
Yes.
Counselor Samaras,
Yes.
Counselor Chow,
Yes.
Counselor Conway,
Yes.
Counselor Drinkwater,
Yes.
Counselor Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Leahy,
Yes.
Counselor Mercia,
Yes.
Counselor Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.
6-1, utility public hearing, TC Systems Incorporated, AT&T requests installation of 2 new telecommunication conduits at the intersection of University Ave and Pawtucket Street. Open up the hearing to to those in favor.
Hi, this is Adam Miller from Sienna Engineering Group, representing TDC Systems. I'm here obviously in favor, but I'd also be happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion is closed. Now open up to anyone in opposition. Opposition? That portion is closed. Let's see, I need a motion to refer to the wire inspection and report for recommendation by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Chow. Any questions? Do we need a roll call now?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. Back to mayor's portion of business, recognition of ambient photonics. Last week, we had a ribbon cutting, last Thursday, October 22nd. Ambient photonics from Santa Cruz, California to Lowell, Mass. They're located in the Boot Mills at 116 John Street. Ambient photonics brings an exciting and new business venture to the city of Lowell. We look forward to their exciting and new discoveries and innovations for a greener and better world. We have Bates Marshall, CEO, here to talk about the company. If you're still there. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and honorable councilors. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for helping with the wonderful event last week. On behalf of myself and the team, we really enjoyed seeing your support and the support of Christine and the team from the Economic Development Organization as well. So I think I will run just a few slides from my side. I think that's the way we decided to do it. If that's right. And I'll just tell you a little bit about the business and our plans for the facility at Boot Mills. So if this looks right, it looks like I think you should be seeing the slides now or very soon. So once again, thanks so much for the opportunity to speak to you all this evening and for your support at our ribbon cutting last week. Our company is a relatively new company. We're a spin-off from a research institute originally based in Wilmington. So this project has been ongoing for about 5 years. And our company makes solar cells, but a very, very unique type of solar cell, which is not aiming to provide power for the grid or for homes or businesses or power plants, but aiming to provide power for electronic devices. So what we do is we replace the rechargeable or replaceable disposable batteries in consumer electronic devices of all kinds. So this is becoming a major problem in the world, people dealing with the hassle and the cost of exchanging batteries. And of course, it's a huge environmental consideration as well. Over 2 billion batteries in the US alone are thrown into landfills. So you can imagine that as these applications become more and more ubiquitous over time, this is becoming a major, major problem. And there's all kinds of applications with electronic devices and Internet of Things devices, which are aimed for the businesses or industrial applications that are held back by the operating expense of having to exchange all these thousands and millions of batteries. So it's a real pain point, and we've had a great reception from our customers in seeking to work with them to put our solar cells into their devices. What the key differentiator of our technology is actually our performance. And I won't walk you through line by line this eye chart, but what it aims to show is that our performance is actually more than 3 times better than the incumbent technology. And you might know from looking at conventional solar, which is for power plants and rooftops and whatnot, performance advantages in most solar applications tend to be maybe 5%, 10%, 12% advantage. We've got more than 3 times the performance, in some cases up to 8 times the performance of our competitors. And so that means these products, which today are very, very simple, which are using solar cells indoors, like the children's toys or solar-powered calculators, which have been around since the 1970s. Now we can do very, very sophisticated applications by providing more power. We can do all kinds of devices that have sensing and communication and really advanced features. So we've gotten the attention of globally leading electronics companies, and we're scaling up just as fast as we can. One thing that's unique about our technology is that it's a low-cost printable technology. So conventional solar is built using very, very large factories. Most of those factories are in China, thanks to the tremendous growth there over the last 10 years. But we are developing technologies in our Lowell R&D center, which we aim to scale into the millions of units. And these technologies basically are leveraging industrial printing. So it's a novel kind of manufacturing environment. It's quite low cost, and it results in technology which has a huge advantage relative to the current state of the art. So we were just delighted to find Lowell and to find Boot Mills, and it's just turned out to be a fantastic fit for our operations. So we are expanding our footprint from our Wilmington location. We've tripled our square footage, and delighted to be part of Boot Mills and to be part of the revitalization of this location, and really happy to be moving into Lowell. So we have a relatively small team in the Lowell facility today. We've got 7 people there today, but we've got 5 open requisitions right now, and we're aiming to add about 20 to 25 more jobs over the course of the next year. These are high-tech, clean energy jobs involved in chemistry, engineering, production engineering, and quite a few of those positions are entry level. So was really interested to hear the presentation from Chancellor Maloney, and we aim to build some direct connections to UMass Lowell and hope to get a good pipeline of qualified candidates into our facility here. So we are eager to grow and excited to be in the city of Lowell. So with that, that's the end of the slides that I presented, but let me just reiterate my thanks for all the support from the city, and we're just very, very excited to be here and excited to be expanding in Lowell.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Any questions? Councilor Mercia?
I don't have any questions, but I was honored to be over there along with our city manager, Eileen Donahue, and the DPD crew. We got a beautiful tour, and when that place was empty, people weren't working, and by the time this gets through, you'll have 20 to 25 people working in the city of Lowell, and I'm just so very proud and grateful that you chose Lowell, as I said when I was on that tour with you. But I want to focus on the people that work there, because you can't imagine how brilliant they must be. To know about solar cells and putting all this together, I wouldn't know where to begin. You know, I'm lucky I could put a battery in a flashlight or whatever, but they're discovering and working in the lab and doing all this mind-boggling stuff. I just can't imagine it. So my hat goes off to all the people that are so brilliant like that. 2 of them are probably standing behind you in the back there, so thank you, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Mercier. I would say that my CTO and co-founder of the company is a UMass Lowell graduate as well, so there's a really nice story there linking back to the university.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Yeah, briefly, I agree. It was real interesting to take that tour and to realize that right here in Lowell, the labs are creating the original molecular, or is it carbide molecules that are going to be used in so many different solar-powered units. It's
Yes.
I'm not sure if you mentioned your big customers already, Amazon, Logitech, all of these inventions that are taking place with customers right off the bat. So I think it's pretty exciting, and we hope you expand your manufacturing unit right here in Lowell too. Because you're looking to produce like a million units this year, right?
So we're in the process of designing the factory that we need, and the type of customers that we're in the process of acquiring are not guys that build in small volumes. So we'll have the ability to generate some kind of production out of this existing Boot Mills facility. That's, you know, thousands of units a month, something like that. But these guys that we're dealing with are in the millions of units, in some cases, in some product lines, in the many millions of units. Yeah, we are designing a factory, and the location of that factory is still to be determined. But I know there's, let's just say there's a conversation to be had there about our future plans there.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you. Need a motion to, thank you, Mr. Marshall. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm sure Vice Mayor did a great job last week. I know you did, as you usually do. So, Thank you. Need a motion to accept and place on file by Counselor Elliott, second by Counselor Samaras. Into the city clerk portion. Need to accept the minutes of a neighborhood subcommittee meeting, October 13th. Technology and Utilities Subcommittee, October 13th. City Council meeting, October 13th. And 20th, Finance Subcommittee, October 20th for acceptance. Motion by Counselor Noon, seconded by Counselor Conway. Auditors report, year-to-date FY21 budget report for general fund expenditures through the month ending September 30th, 2020. Any questions on that, Counselor Elliott?
Just briefly, Madam Auditor, I went through the report. Thank you for the quarterly report. I think it's good to get information. I didn't see any outliers. Expenditures seem to be on target. We're just getting through the first quarter. Anything that you'd like to highlight, or seems like we're pretty consistent. A lot of line items still have not been encumbered, which is a good sign. It's a conservative approach to spending money, but I don't know, I just wanted to get your opinion.
Sure.
Sure, thank you. If you look at the percent used is usually what I go by, and we're hovering around the 20 to 25%, which you would expect with the first quarter spending. If you see anything above that, it's usually because of timing issues, meaning it could be an expense that we incur in the beginning of the fiscal year, and we won't incur that expense for the rest of the fiscal year. But if you notice, they are pretty consistent hovering around where you think they should be. Year-to-date spending is looking good. I know we have some bigger expenses coming up later on in the year. So I think the first quarter is okay. The real true test will probably be the next quarter, after next quarter. So, thank you.
Okay. I have a question, and I know our schools are remote now, right? So I hope it's not a crazy question, but we spend a lot of money on energy, lighting, heating, et cetera. If the schools are not going to be used, I know we have to keep them a certain temperature. We certainly don't want to go through the winter we did with pipes bursting and et cetera. But do we feel we can realize some savings, energy costs? I mean, are there a significant amount of people in the building that we should, spend, I'll say thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to heat, or do you know that, Madam Manager?
So
We do have some kids in the building, but.
Currently, there's 3% of students in every building. So every building is open.
Oh, so 3% in every building, they're not just special ed and located in certain?
They are special ed, it's some of the most needy
Sure.
students that need to be in, but the schools are utilizing every building
Okay.
so far.
That's fine, I understand. I just, if they're not being used, then we certainly could realize some energy savings, and
Yeah, we've had conversations with the school department around, and that's a good point in terms of energy, but even utilizing school nurses, if there's an opportunity to maybe consolidate so that we can better utilize our school nurses. One of the things that we know, from the spring, the first surge of the pandemic, was when the schools did shut down, we were able to utilize our school nurses to do contact tracing, which was really critical in those days, so that we knew where the virus was in the city. So too, there are some school nurses who have already started to do that with the health department. And at the new location, there's much more ability to have people in the department doing that. So we're going to continue to work with the school department, because that work is that need is going to continue to be there for the city.
thank goodness for our nurses. Thank you.
Thank you. Need a motion to accept and place on file by Counselor Conway, second by Counselor Mercia. Communications from city manager. Motion responses. First motion A, funding for small businesses. Any questions, Counselor Chow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And first, this was a motion to explore if there was any funding for small businesses for the quote-unquote second wave. And this motion was presented at the last meeting. And thank you so much, Christine McCall, for the prompt response. And I just want to have a tip our hats and compliment Christine McCall and her entire team at the Department of Economic Development for all the hard work they've been doing. As you heard from the previous business that came on, it's not one aspect of the business in Lowell that Christine and all her staff that have not been involved with. They're just doing a fantastic job. And again, I understand that we are receiving an additional $500,000 for CDBG through the COVID-19, the CARES Act. We expended, I think the first wave was about $150,000 for immediate assistance to small businesses, and that was successful. I don't know if Christine is here, if she could expand, elaborate on the $500,000. I know that it's going to be rolled out in the next year and a half, and if she could explain a little bit about her plans to roll out the money and to help these small businesses.
Sure, I believe she is joining us on Zoom. Mr. Clerk.
Hi.
Oh,
Thank you,
I hear her.
Councilor Chow. Thank you, Madam Manager. Our office has been working with businesses directly to make them aware of other grant opportunities. There's a Heartbeat Main Street grant, and the Governor Baker announced, I think, $50 million to support small businesses for, I believe there's 2 grant opportunities, under 5 and under 50. And so we've been trying to push that and make that available to our small businesses. We were very fortunate to receive $500,000 in the CDBG CV pot to continue to support businesses. The regulations for the CARES Act funding is a little bit different than the CDBG regular funding that we rolled out in the spring. The rollout in the spring, the follow-up requirements were a little bit, we could leave it up to businesses to use the grant money if they were eligible to how they wanted. This new funding has a lot more restrictions on it. So our office intends to create multiple programs over the next year, whether it be a rent-specific program or a utility-specific program or a COVID-related specific cost. We have to be really careful with duplication of services because of all the federal programs, the PPP, the EIDL, and other states. We have to make sure if someone received PPP, we're not giving them additional federal funds for payroll. We want to make sure we're helping, and then we also want to make sure we're helping all of our businesses. Obviously our small retailers, our restaurants were immediately impacted by the virus, which is why we focused on them in the spring. And then with this new funding, we want to make sure that we're helping our small scale manufacturers, our iHub startups, and then also continuing to support our small retailers and restaurants, because some restaurants that have received funding in the spring, are still, they still need a lot of assistance. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. And then as we roll out these programs, we'll make sure to keep the council apprised of all the particulars.
Mercia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Christine. Great job that you're doing, Christine. The last time that you came before the council and we talked about the funding and it ran out, there were businesses that had applied, but there wasn't enough money to go around for them. So I'm happy to hear that these are the people that you're going to reach out to anyway. Am I right?
Yes, we will not likely be able to grant them the same flexibility, but we will reach out to them and ask what they need and see how we can create a program to support them with this
Okay,
funding.
that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Chow, anything else?
I don't have any question, but I just want to, again, thank you, Christine, for all your hard work. We all know that small businesses are the backbone of any community, and there's a real threat out there that 25% of the small businesses will not survive. And I think that the reason is many small businesses start using their own money, and once that run out, they don't have any more savings to restart their dream business. And, you know, once this is over, Christine, I think all the small businesses in Lowell should have some kind of a celebration day for you, because I know you are. It's very, very important, you know, saving the health of small businesses is just as important as concerning to the overall health of the residents and of the community. Again, I thank you and your staff for all your hard work. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion response B, homelessness and mental health outreach. Councilor Elliott, any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Madam Manager, I had filed 2 motions, and the response is excellent. Quite frankly, I'm not really sure where to go with this. It's such a complex problem, and it has mental health, certainly mental health and homeless. We know what the issues are. Just for the folks that are at home that are watching, you know, this response talks about you know, the increase in homelessness, the less capacity space as a result of COVID, mental health issues, the lack of, because of COVID, the lack of advocates or individuals caring for the homeless, getting their mental health and medical attention. Clearly, if facilities are necessary, as I think we all knew before that, there are more homeless people in the city, and I do like the response. The Elliott Church is going to have invited more patrons or customers, clients there. But by the same token, there's so many, and it's caused some tribulation through the community, which is why we filed it. With Council Mercy also filed it. So I don't really, really good information here, Madam Manager. I know people are doing a lot of stuff, but it seems that it's such a monumental challenge that seems like, you know, what else can we do? Meaning, clearly we need the support of the state. I firmly believe that we had one mental health center that was closed that needs to be reopened. We've been talking about this for so long, why the state closed. The only facility, to my knowledge, is Tewksbury State Hospital, and look at the challenges they're having just with COVID in itself. So I'm going to read this again, Madam Manager, and see where we go from here. You know, setting up another committee, setting up a task force, that's all well and fine, but I think it's more than that. You know, interestingly enough, we had the Chancellor of the university asking, how can we help in the community during these times? And quite frankly, I personally feel that this might be an opportunity to use some resources at the university and really to partner with us, because, Madam Manager, the city is doing a lot. It may not seem that way because, as the report reflects, there's more homeless people in the city, and there's less place for them to go. So I don't know, perhaps we'll have, you know, we can have a conversation with the Chancellor to see how can we come up with some concrete solutions and clearly facilities. I don't know if you have anything to add, Madam Manager, but I really was impressed with the substance of this report, the funding that's available, the programs that are available, the outreach that the city has done. I actually noticed it in one of the homeless camps. I saw city workers going there. So I'm going to stop there, get your thoughts, and, you know, where do we go with the mental health that's clearly visible in the homeless community, but we all know as a result of COVID has quadrupled. I think I heard some data, 1 in 4 people now suffer from some form of depression or anxiety, and there is some online help, there's virtual help. That could be, you know, one big solution, but I think it's something where, regrettably, the local community has to step up somehow.
Sure. Madam Manager, can we suspend the rules? We'll bring in the motion too, since it's all related.
Sure.
We're not double talk. So need a motion to suspend the rules to bring in a motion by Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Mercier. 12-1, Councilor Mercier, Mayor Leahy.
Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
if I could make a comment on Councilor Rodney's motion real quick before you move to the next one?
Well, it's all kind of talk related in, so we'll just wrap them together.
Sure, it's fine.
Comment, okay. Request city manager find ways and means to ask the state to allow city homeless to take shelter indoors during the winter, preferably and perhaps in one of the empty Lowell District courthouses on Hurd Street. Councilor Mercia?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for allowing this to be segued in, because it's all in the same ballpark. And I did love this report because it's a start, and it's fine. And when we talk about mental illness, a lot of the people on the street, it's not that they're drug addicts, they're mentally ill. And many years ago, when the state closed down Solomon Mental Health, then at the time, Mayor Richard Howe, Bud Caulfield, and myself, we traveled to Boston to the Department of Mental Health, and we didn't ask them to keep the place open. We begged them to please don't throw the most vulnerable people out in the street. And I wonder if things could come full circle again, where the state finally does something for people that are homeless. And when I say homeless, that to me is a crisis. When I say drug addiction, that to me is a crisis. And I think we have to address it as much as we can. I know that I go to work every day, and if you went by the Salvation Army, there's a little doorway, there's a man sleeping in a blanket, not in a sleeping bag, with a blanket over him, rain, shine, he's there on the sidewalk. It kills me to have to see this happen, because that man isn't just a drunk or whatever he is, he's somebody's father. He's a human being, and I don't know what's going to happen in the winter when all these people are sleeping out in the street. Not everybody has a sleeping bag. People are sleeping in the street. I see it every day. So I'm bringing this motion forward. It'll probably go nowhere, but to sit and do nothing, I just as soon say the motion and at least I tried. At least they can say no. But there's a building that's empty. The building will have heat in it. I know they could probably cut the pipes and let the water drain, but it's got to be heated or it hasn't. Let it be heated and let these people stay in there, those that want to help. I'll admit, there are people that don't want to go in. They've been out for 10 years in a tent. That's their life. They like this freedom. But there are some that would need shelter. Isn't it incumbent upon this council to do whatever we can? We got groups, task force. This, to me, was a godsend to see the money that they've generated, but I don't see any. Now, there's something coming up to keep people in their homes. Absolutely true. We need to keep people in their homes. These are people that have no homes. They're throwaway people, but they're not to me. And I could cry when I talk about this. It's very moving to me, and it's very sad. Many years ago, I don't think that you would know, because you're quite younger, and I just was a little girl, but on Chelmsford Street, there was a place called the Poor House, or the Poor Farm, and that's where people went when they were indigent. It seems like we need something like that today for people that have nothing but a blanket to sleep outside, and I don't know what to do when it starts snowing. I don't know what to do, and the weather is going to get colder. I don't want to feel responsible that I did nothing while the people froze to death with hypothermia. I can't be a part of that. To do nothing and say nothing. I'm grasping at straws here to beg if we could somehow, through you, Madam Manager, ask the state to please help us. I don't know what else to do. I've never seen anything like this in our city. Go to Andover, go to Chelmsford, go to Drake. You don't see it, but you see it here in Lowell because we have the facilities, we have a shelter, and the shelter won't take everybody. There's that social distancing, and people will say to me, oh, you want to keep them in the courthouse, the Lowell District Courthouse. What about the COVID-19? What about distancing? Are they distancing themselves out in the South Common, out in the streets? Absolutely not. That's the least of their concern. The concern is to get shelter so they don't die of frostbite or whatever. So there's many things that I could say, but let's remember what it says in the Bible, and I'm not a religious fanatic, but it says, what you do for the least of them, you do for me. So I think we'd like to do something for them. That's the gist of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Chow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I will support Councilor Mercier's motion. I think it's very timely. It's a big issue for our city with the population that we have and the density that we have, and for us to, we're a gateway city, and our mission as gateway city is to take care of everybody. And as the motion maker stated, you know, we need to take care of the least in our city. I also want to comment, take a different approach in regards to Councilor Elliott's motion response as well. I know it's complex with the homeless and the mental health issue. I want to take from a different approach, and that is one of the entity mentioned in the motion response is the Elliott Church. That's the church that my mother has gone to for decades, and obviously there's no service now because of COVID-19. And I'm just, just want to, again, just compliment the pastor there and the church for stepping up. And it's not really their obligation to take care of the homeless in that area, which is next to South Common. And I spoke with her this afternoon. She take upon herself to do what she can, but she stated that she is very, very grateful for the city manager's office, for the city as a whole, and for the councilor to really support her, because there are programs now to help her and the church to take care of the low barrier situation day program, which is from 9 to 2 p.m. That's a day program, and again, everything is intertwined. So the church is able to take care during the daytime, but at nighttime, where do these people go? And that's why the motion maker, Rita Mercier, about using the old district courthouse for shelter in the evening. I think that's a great one. So I will support that. And again, thank you, Rodney, Councilor Rodney Elliott, for making a motion to get and to give credit and some funding and support to the Elliott Church as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Drinkwater, then Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support the motion on the floor, and am grateful for all of the work going on that this motion response clearly demonstrates. Everyone from the city to the homeless service providers within the city. It seems like everyone's just pulling out every single possible stop, looking for every single possible dollar to address this problem, which is very much needed, and there's a lot of great work going on, and I think we need to get creative and think outside the box, and I think that's what this motion does. I did want to ask through you, Mr. Mayor, to Madam Manager. I know last spring, at the beginning of this crisis, the state essentially took over a hotel, I know in this region, in Lexington, because at the time, the shelters were just beginning to distance, their capacities were reduced, people were in danger of being out on the street during the late spring where it's cold out. We're just getting into the cold weather now. Has there been any discussion at the state level, from the governor's office about whether a similar plan to just take over a huge, chunk of hotel rooms, in different places throughout the state to just address this, not just in a stopgap way, but in more of a bigger way to just get people into housing at night when they need it?
Madam Manager.
Thank you, councilors. So the hotel, the one in Lexington, that was utilized for individuals who were homeless who tested positive for COVID, and they went there to recuperate and have care. And that was very successful, as you say, because these individuals clearly couldn't isolate or get the proper treatment. That hotel is no longer being utilized, to my knowledge, but there is another one in Everett. They did open several across the state, but the hotels primarily solely were used for individuals who tested positive for COVID. We have had conversations with the state about what's going to happen in the winter and winter protocol. This is happening in all the cities. All of the shelters have been told to downsize because of social distancing requirements. We're looking at less than half capacity, 73 beds at the Lowell Transitional Living Center, when in winter protocol beds could have been upwards of 190. Huge difference, and these individuals who would have been housed are no longer. So they have made monies. And we've sought the monies to try and work with partners to locate beds. The shelter, SMOC, has acquired, I think, 20 beds at a hotel in Chelmsford. There's some of the other partners which we're going to try and work with them for funding. We're trying to explore everything, and that includes Life Connections is looking to establish at least 20 beds. The CTI is stepping up. CTI, of course, always works in the area of usually families in homelessness and does a great job. And just, we were in conversation with Karen Frederick and CTI, and they agreed to try and help in this area, which is the most neglected area of individuals who are homeless. And so everybody has come, forward to try and work on this, but we do need help from the state. There's a motion before us that we'll pursue with the state. I'm not certain what the status, I tried to find out. The trial court has to turn over buildings to DCAM. I don't know if that actually has happened yet. It's a process. We've had conversations that I think Mary Shannon Thomas, and I want to credit Mary Shannon Thomas for just doing yeoman's work in this area, bringing providers together, seeking out funds, working with other people to funnel monies to them, and really having a handle on what's happening on the streets out there in Lowell. But there have been conversations about Solomon Mental Health Center, as has been pointed out. The state does not utilize it. I think they may have a tenant in there. I don't know who the tenant is, and I'm not sure what they do, but we know they don't have the Solomon Mental Health providers, but there's been conversations. Is that facility available on a temporary basis for winter protocol type of situations? So, we're trying to work with all hands on deck to try and see what we can come up with. That's the long-winded way of answering your question, Counselor.
Thank you. And I think it's clear there's really no stone going unturned right now. And I saw in the report that there were, 20 beds being located, in a hotel here, another 10 to 20 in other places. And it just takes, I know, a tremendous amount of work to make those beds happen. I think, again, in the spring, it was, the state stepped in and they, procured a big property that could handle a lot of the region's problems. I hope, and I'm confident that it is, but I hope that there might be a similar type solution in the offing this fall and winter as well.
Yeah, because it's locating the beds and then providing appropriate staffing as required. So there's, but it is a conversation that's happening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second Madam Managers that Mary Shannon Thomas, Directors for Homeless Initiative, have done a great job in coordinating, and she has already begun dialogue with partners like CTI, the Life Connection Centers, and the Elliott Church, just to name a few, because this really is take everyone working together. You have Lowell Transitional Living Center, who traditionally provide shelter to people, but because of COVID, there's drastic cut in the capacity. So you need someone to help in terms of alleviating that, because the state requires social distance and so on. So I know elder churches have started this process already, working and helping the Lowell transitional housing authorities, as well as housing center, as well as CTI. I know also that they're working on grant a while back, and they received that grant, which is a great thing, because here you go, winter's here. COVID is already here, but winter's is here. You either die from winter, from COVID, or the cold. Really, you don't have place to go. This is really serious, and that's why, everyone said, we have to put our head together and do everything we can to help the homeless people. And I agree with Councilor Elliott. This is all connected. Homelessness and mental health are connected. We need to work, hand in hand to address both if possible. Thank you, Madam Manager. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Just quickly from the chair, with the motion and with the response, Lieutenant Governor Polito's office has been very helpful. I've been talking to her for a couple of weeks, and she's on board, and as we said, we got to pull out all the stops. If we can get help from University of Lowell, Lowell General, any rooms that are appropriate for whatever the situation is, trying to get people educated, the health that they need, mental health, physical health, anything. So, this is great that we're talking about this. It's got full attention, and we'll see where this goes, but we really need to put a big push into this, as everybody has said tonight. Councilor Elliott?
So we've had great discussion, a lot of good points. How do we put this all together? Because there's lots of moving pieces, and you just mentioned something, and I think it's a starting point. I think we have to get the attention of the governor and the lieutenant governor. I'm sure it's not just here in Lowell, Massachusetts, but it's a big problem here as a result of complicated by COVID. I really do think we need to get the attention of the lieutenant governor and the governor.
She has our attention.
And I think we need to get the delegation around the table. And I just don't want to have a meeting for a meeting, because we know, we've identified the problem, but how, and personally, I think we've talked about Solomon for a long time. I agree, Madam Manager. Is there a tenant? Is it compliant? They shut it down for a while because the building wasn't in compliance. So I think we need to get the Secretary of Health and Human Services or the Commissioner of Mental Health Services here in the city, let them see the problem, and they need to make that commitment. And there's only one way to do that, I feel, and that is to get them here, invite them here to a meeting through your office and the city manager with the university. I do think the university can play a role in this, quite frankly, because it's a logistical issue. We need to identify what is available, and I think Councilor Drinkwater is right. It's going to be 20 beds here. It's going to be 20 here. It's not going to be this large facility. But coupled with that is the mental health services that people in the Merrimack Valley and Greater Lowell have needed, and it has just been complicated and compounded in the last 8 or 9 months, and it's not going to get better. So I'm talking a lot, but I just feel that we really do need to have a meeting and get the attention, because we have the information that they're looking for, what we have the money, but how do we start with that anchor? I would say anchor location, and then build around it. I don't know.
And Sue Levine from the Lowell Health Community Center, they're on board. They want to help. Councilor Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and always a very valid points. But until the laws change around it, we're going to be in this situation. The fact of the matter is that there is availability in places. I know the shelter has it, and what happens is that with mental health and even with drugs and alcohol abuse, as Councilor Mercier has been dealt with for a long time, the longest you can order somebody through a judge's decision is, at the longest is 28 days. And then what happens is they're given an outpatient plan, and they're set on their way. With regards to mental health, it's even less. It's only 72 hours. And that's if it's deemed that the person is a danger to themselves or to others due to mental illness. So until those underlying laws are changed, if somebody that is at the South Common or somebody is on Central Street and they don't want to go, you can't just pick them up and take them. it's illegal to do, and until those things change, we're going to be dealing with this problem, since we are a gateway city that deals with this on a very proactive basis, as things are the way they are now. And that, I think, is a main problem that I'm sure the manager deals with as, head of the city, and that what I deal with at a probation department, or Council Merchant deals with at a community corrections center. If somebody does not want the help, they are under no legal requirement to get it. And that's, meetings aside, until that changes, unfortunately, Lowell will be in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Manager?
Yeah, we will follow up. These are all great suggestions, and as I said, I know Mary Shannon has been standing in the wings, but she has done a yeoman's work in this area. And on the mental health issue, it is a huge issue. It's one that the pandemic didn't cause this, but it certainly has exacerbated the problem, especially for homeless individuals on the street. And when, most of the providers have gone to telehealth, it doesn't work for the homeless. And so many of them are going without services, even though they may have had them before the pandemic. Now we find they're out on their own, not taking medication, very much in need. And you're exactly right, Counselor, because Mary Shannon Thomas, our police department, tried to go to the mental health courts, tried to work with, their providers, their PAC teams, to try and get certain people help. And it's a huge lift, and you don't get much success if the individual doesn't want help.
Thank you.
But we're going to keep trying.
To the manager's point, you can walk downtown and see the same exact individuals that are there every single day. And us as a department at the courthouse, and I know that Shannon has done the same thing, is you continually ask and you always try, and it's the right thing to do. But if to get an answer that's no, and there's no reason, there's no way that we can remove the person from that place. It's just it's a sad existence. It's a sad life, and we continue to try and praise those efforts ongoing. But it's until things change where you can have somebody that files on your behalf, that's looking out for your well-being, until those regulations are eased up a little bit, that's the situation that we're going to be in.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Not yet.
Councilor Chow.
Mr. Mayor, give me a second here. We mentioned Mary Shannon's names a few times here, and since she's here, I would like to hear her perspective regarding to this report, because it would be great to hear firsthand experience, because she's been working so hard with different organizations and directly with caregivers and the homeless as well. So if we could hear your perspective on this a little bit before we move on, that'd be great.
Sure.
If that's okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, councilors. I think, folks have sort of hit the nail on the head that resources are spread very thin right now. The numbers, just in terms of bed availability, we're down between 500 and 800 beds across the state. And it is challenging because we didn't have enough beds pre-pandemic. We certainly are short now, and trying to figure out not only where we can put folks, but how to staff those locations, how to engage guests around coming in, to have folks want to come into spaces that are unfamiliar to them, is challenging, and it involves a lot of rapport building, and it involves a lot of engagement that is tricky to do under the best of circumstances, but is increasingly difficult to do with circumstances the way they are. I've been very fortunate to be engaged with the clinicians that are tied to the mental health court. I've talked with the majority of our major mental health providers here in the city, and they, I think, are all doing the best they can given the resources available to them. Our major DMH resources in the PAC teams and the ACCS teams, who are serving our most vulnerable and our most challenging clients, have tried to get really creative in how they engage people and how they get people's needs met. But it is increasingly tricky when your usual sort of resources just aren't available. Our recovery learning centers aren't available. A lot of the day programs have closed. I will say I think we're incredibly fortunate in the role that the Elliott Church is playing. And I'm actually excited, although it gets a little complicated in meetings, because we're actually able to bring some mental health services into Elliott Church. So Elliott Community Human Services actually has clinicians from their homeless outreach team, which is a mental health driven team, coming into the Elliott Church several days a week. So we're bringing people together in a lot of different places. We're engaging, as folks have mentioned, really heavily right now with Life Connections. We are working closely with CTI. We're working closely with SMOC. So I think there's a lot of good momentum right now. There's a lot of opportunities here. But I do think that we are kind of hopeful that there will be some other spot made available where folks can go. I think it's a challenge that is not unique to Lowell. I'm hearing it from colleagues, all over the state, and frankly, have a meeting tomorrow that's a regional meeting for folks even from Vermont and New Hampshire and Maine to hear sort of how they're addressing this. So it is not a problem that is unique to Lowell, but I'm hopeful that we are putting some things in place that will allow us to mitigate some of the crisis, if not outright solve it.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
set.
Thank you, Mary Shannon, for your hard work and for your presentation today. Very, very appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, great work. Back to the motion responses, 150 Aiken Ave. Council Mercier, any questions?
No, but I wish that we could have got a guardrail, and that's the answer I would have loved to hear, but I understand that they can't. But I spoke to Diane Trad, and she said to me, there's possibly a way that we could get some trees planted there through Jane Calvin and the tree planting program. That'd be a good idea, and that would be very helpful for this woman, and she's very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Need a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Rourke.
Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
can we
Councilor.
bundle 8.1 to 8.3, sir?
Great idea.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Rourke. Got it? Yeah. Okay. 8.1, vote. Authorize city manager to exercise lease with Jean Doc for ATMs. Also permission to waive this full reading. 8.2, vote to accept and expend $400,000 complete streets from MassDOT Bridge and French Street intersection. Vote to accept and expend $10,867 grant Bureau of Infectious Disease and Lab Sciences in the Mass Area Planning Council Region 3. Motion to adopt by Councilor Noon, seconded by Councilor Samaras. Roll call.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Drinkwater.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercier.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
It's 9 yeas.
8.4, vote authorize city manager to expend LDA with Lowell Companies. We have a speaker on this, so. Okay. So permission to waive the full reading, second reading by title and motion. Title, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, City Council, vote authorizing the city manager to enter a land and disposition agreement with Lowell Companies, LLC, regarding properties located at 291, 330, 341.1, 341.2, 341.3 Jackson Street, otherwise known as Parcels 1, 2, 3A, 4, and 5, in the Hamilton Canal Innovation District, with Jackson Street, Appleton, Middlesex, the Jam, urban revitalization development project area and to consummate sale and disposition of said properties. Go to the speaker first.
I think it's Christine O'Connor's there.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. If you want to hear from her, you want a motion to adopt?
So this is Jerry Lynn Darcy on behalf of Lowell Companies.
Yep, sure.
Hi, I just wanted to, again, thank everyone for their support and help through this process. We have worked as a result of the MOU being approved by the City Council to formulate and finalize an LDA to essentially formalize the process of the transfer. And on behalf of Sal Lopoli and Lopoli Companies, again, we look forward to continuing our work with the city and embarking on a long-term commitment to the city in this district. We feel as though there's great opportunity for both sides. And I wanted to just take this opportunity again to thank all of you for your support and your ongoing interest in our endeavors in the city.
Thank you, Ms. Darcy. Madam Manager, do we need anything from the solicitor, or?
Just, this is the land disposition agreement. The council did approve the MOU and authorized me to sign it. This is the LDA. Just briefly, this is an exciting project. It's a minimum of a $30 million investment in the Hamilton Canal District by the Lopoli Companies. It's for 5 lots, 1, 2, 3A, 4, and 5. The project will consist of a 500 to 600 car garage on lot 1, and then a 40,000 square foot building that will be used, and is intended to be used for development, office space, entrepreneur space, and then the iconic building, the high-rise iconic building, which was always contemplated in the Hamilton Canal District, at least a 13-story building that will be multi-use building, including commercial, retail, and residential. Very exciting project. We spoke earlier tonight about all the activity that's happening in the Hamilton Canal. This is an exciting project. It is essentially a master developer who, and I use that as someone who is coming in and will be developing a significant portion of the Hamilton Canal in a compatible way that the city is desirous of. So I would urge the support of the council.
Any questions, any comments? Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Manager, I think this is a good thing. I'm a little concerned only as a result of some commitments that were made in the past with development in Hamilton Canal. The project schedule, parcel 1 is the parking garage, correct? So that construction is not going to be, is required to begin by June 30th of 2021, which is really not that far away. However, construction on parcel 5 or parcels 2 through 4 isn't for 2 years later. I understand it, and then, the rest of the parcels not till 2027. What if we don't see progress? Do we have, I didn't see any language, do we have an opportunity to opt out? Or, quite frankly, it's happened to us in the past.
No,
so-
and the solicitor could address that, but we had discussion around that. The schedule was very important, one, that it was doable and feasible, and this is something that it allows some room, although, Lopoli Companies has indicated if they can do things sooner, they will do things sooner, but we're being realistic as well. The garage is first, because that has to support the other projects.
Right.
And so that's why the garage is first up. The start date could be sooner than what you see in the agreements. This has to go to DHCD and be approved there, and there's, obviously, between tonight and the actual closing, there is a time lag. But I think the schedule on the first piece is pretty aggressive by Lowell companies. The other things will flow from that.
No, I have all the confidence in the Lowell company, but we've been here before, and for better or for worse, we've been here, and you were probably even around. We've been here where we had master developers, and some other, projects were more attractive in other communities, and nothing happened. So, however, considering he's building a garage, and then he's going to want to, so Lowell will, as he explained in his presentation, will want to move forward. That's good. I just want to make sure that there are some protections here for the city, that if we do see progress not moving in a timely manner, that we're not just going to sit on a vacant parcel property and we're back to square one.
Yeah, I don't have the LDA. If Chris O'Connor is on, she may be able to speak to that.
Mr. O'Connor?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The parties did discuss things like any kind of a failure to comply with the schedule or other aspects of this agreement. That type of a default would affect not any sort of a parcel that has already been complete, but parcels that haven't been completed yet. As far as the date of the 27th, that's to have substantial completion on the entire project. So it would be anticipated, obviously, that there's going to be a lot of construction happening in the meantime. So we wanted to have a realistic schedule that could be adhered to. And from everything we've seen so far, as the manager has indicated, Lowell company is eager to get started, and it's anticipated that they will probably move quicker than the schedule provides. But if there is non-compliance with a schedule or any other aspect of the LDA, there are remedies available to the city.
Okay. No, that's good. I do see Section 18, again, can't transfer the land. Forced, Section 19, forced, correct me if I'm wrong, Major? Okay. So, thank you for the explanation, and it's exciting. Don't get me wrong, I'm in full support, but it's good to hear that there are protections for the city. Thank you, Madam Manager. Thank you, Madam Solicitor and Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Motion to adopt by Council Mercer, second by Council Rourke. Roll call.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Chow.
Yes.
Counsel Conway.
Yes.
Counsel Drinkwater.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Mercier.
Yes.
Counsel Newton.
Yes.
It's 9 yeas.
9-1, orders from the city manager. 9-1, order to abandon portion of Warren Street and portion of Hurd Street. Motion to refer a public hearing on November 10th, 2020 at 7 p.m. by Councilor Chow, seconded by Councilor Noon. Ordinances from the city manager. Ordinance, rental property, manager posting. Motion to refer a public hearing on November 10th, 2020 at 7 p.m. by Councilor Conway, seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Noon?
No, more said, Mr.
Oh, all
Mayor.
right, I thought you had a question. Reports, subcommittee, finance subcommittee meeting.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, we met, Finance Subcommittee met both last Tuesday and this evening. Minutes are provided in this that we adopted this evening on the 20th, so I won't belabor the issue, but the long and the short of the meeting was about the payment of lieu of taxes with the Lowell Housing Authority. It was a informative discussion when it comes to agreements that are in place back in the 80s and the housing authority's payment of lieu of taxes for all services rendered. But in large part, the focus of this meeting 2 weeks ago was about the issue of trash and the impact that the contamination of recycling is having on the city and the general fund. So, and it's, there's a concentration of contamination in the acre section of the city, 63%. But that's just one part of the problem. The second part of the problem is the burden, the financial burden that's being placed on the taxpayers as a result of both the contamination, increased disposal costs. Some of that, we had discussion as a result, there's more trash. People are at home more, it's costing us more, and that's just placing a greater burden. Again, it's not in the revolving fund, but on taxpayers. About $2 million deficit that we're running in that particular fund. So that was essentially the information gathering. I think the manager is going to meet with the executive director. And there's also outreach being done to reduce the contamination, increase the recycling, and cost. So that's first and foremost. And we will meet in the future about the recycling, about the solid waste costs, because it's skyrocketing, and we've got to do something about it. We can't sustain that cost right now. So that was the 20th. This evening, there was a joint meeting
Just accept that real quick.
Sure.
So motion to accept as a report of progress by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Chow. Thank you.
Thank you. And I hope I'm not going too fast, but the minutes are posted online. But this evening, we met the Finance Subcommittee, Joint Finance Subcommittee met with the School Committee Finance Subcommittee. Also present were Councilor Mercia. On the Finance Subcommittee, myself, Councilor Noon, Councilor Conway, Councilor Drinkwater, Councilor Mercia, and Councilor Samaras were also present. On the school side, we had the chair, Ms. Martin, Mr. Hoey, Mr. Dakota, Superintendent of Schools, Chief Finance Officer and Auditor for the city, Connor Baldwin. I should just introduce the entire staff. It was a well-attended meeting. Billy Joe Turner from the school committee. Anyway, it was a productive discussion. We talked about a number of issues that could place a great financial burden on the city. A presentation was given by the school business manager, outlining some costs that could be significant. School reimbursement for the provision of food is in good shape. We also talked about transportation costs with less students being transported. Special ed cost, big concern, depending upon what happens with COVID and whether we have to go out of district or not out of district. We're talking anywhere between $1 million and $5 million should some complications arise. But those are the students that are still, 3% of the students are still being taught in school, as we mentioned, across the city, and it's important we do that. So that really was, the school department has about $37,000 in bad bills. There was about a year to date where we were discussing the same thing. Got to continue to work on protocols, procedures, et cetera, on making sure that people are following the rules for ordering, buying, purchasing, and paying for services that we commit in a timely manner. I want to thank the auditor. You're doing the job that you were hired to. There are deadlines, there are dates, bills have to be in, invoices have to be submitted, and if they're not, it's a bad bill. So I'm sure there'll be more to come from the Chief Financial Officer on that and the manager when those have to be brought forward. That's a report of progress, Mr. Mayor. We will meet again on a regular basis to just facilitate the discussion of where we are at. We didn't get to FY21. FY21 is a discussion for a separate meeting. So I know it's been a long night so far, but that's a report of progress.
Thank you. Are you all set, Madam Manager? Yeah. Okay, yep.
I didn't know whether there was anything further. I've been advised by the solicitor, I just want to share this with the council, that if the council has the choice of either going to executive session or referring the open meeting law complaint to the law department to prepare a response.
Motion to refer the complaint to the city solicitor for response.
Seconded by Councilor
Second.
Roy.
I'll second.
I don't know if that needs a roll call, but maybe on this.
Roll
No,
call.
Okay,
Okay, no roll call.
no roll call.
All right. I just have one quick, under subcommittees, we just got started with the Mayor's Youth Advisory Commission. I think that Councilor Samaras started. So we just had an orientation tonight. We're going to try to meet once a month, and we'll send out a bulletin if anybody wants to join in. We're going to do Zoom meetings for right now. So just quick update, we had Ron DeRosa, 8th grader from the Wang Middle School, Princess Wilson, that's her name, not a real princess, Counselor Chow, senior at Lowell High, Kim Magisa Adair, sophomore at Lowell High School, and our adult advisor, Ruth Hogaimbo. She's works over at the Lowell Community Health Center. She's a project manager. Veronica Brown from my office and the intern Jacob Kaminsky was there. So we just got the ball started. We're going to bring up, obviously, youth conversation, interests, and get their perspective. So that started tonight, and I'll keep you all informed on that. So any announcements?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we not have a youth subcommittee? Why would we have
Yes.
one if we don't utilize it?
Yes, we do.
All right, so I think I'm on it, so I didn't know anything about this meeting.
I know, this is
didn't either.
kind of a rookie mistake as being mayor. We're
Well,
just trying
that's
to get that.
okay. We all make mistakes. I
Right,
know
we're
it's
just trying to
hard.
get this advisory commission off the ground too, so I'll combine them and we'll get.
Well, I know it's hard to believe, but I do make mistakes once in a while. But I do have an announcement.
Sure.
I'd just like to talk about very briefly, Councilor Elliott, a clothing drive put on by Larry Finn and the Lowell firefighters, Local 853, dedicated to Ann Finn, Coats by Ann from Above. Last Saturday, they bought 145 coats from Kohl's to give away at Kohl's to the children in the Lowell school system. And I'd like to hold this up because I think most of them signed this thank you to the firefighters and to Ann from Above. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because now on Halloween, on Saturday, October 31st, which is this Saturday, they will give more coats away from 9 a.m. in the morning till 2 p.m. in the afternoon at the Civic Center Fire Station at 99 Moody Street. So, and sometime in November, they will give 30 to 40 more coats away from LL Bean. They will give them away to Lowell High School students that really don't have any place to go, that are from house to house and don't have much. So thanks to firefighters Local 853, Larry Finn, and Ann Finn, Ann from Above. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Mercy. Any other announcements? Motion adjourned by Councilor Chow, second by Councilor Rourke. Thank you.